Hey guys, how are you? So, thanks for showing up. So, what are we here? How many people we got now? 38. So, I guess people are a little late to the show. I hope everybody is well. Um, we have a moderator today, so he's going to take care of things if somebody starts spamming our way. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Colleen. I hope everything is well. All right, cool. Legends say Ruby developers are raised by wolves. That's true, by lone wolves. Okay. What do we got here? Platform stats are relevant so long as one person views at that resolution requirement for that breakpoint exists, whether design mobile first or cinema first. Yeah, so there's a bit of a discussion about today's topic about mobile first development. It was a question that was sent to me I don't know, yesterday or the day before. I figured it would be a good topic of discussion. I try to balance things here between more advanced, high-level discussions, maybe some low-level stuff. Okay. I'm just waiting for the usual 75 to 100 people, then I'm going to jump into the question at hand. So we'll just do a little bit of chat for now. How to deal with frustration when it comes to solving problems. I know problem solving is an essential part of any developer. Well, as a developer, you're just a problem solver overall. That's what you are doing. So what you got to do is you got to break it up into smaller components. I learned that from the German engineers about 30 years ago. You break up a complex big problem into smaller little problems, prioritize the problems, and Bob Junko. That's how you do it. DD, hello from New York City. You got to play live drums before you get rid of the drum set. What's your favorite style of play? I don't know if I have a favorite style of play. Jazzy, I suppose. I play around with different things, different patterns, I don't have a particular favorite. Okay, some people like the topic. That's great. Let's see what we got here. Please, how much time do I need to finish with HTML5 and CSS3? I just want to jump into JavaScript. Well, it depends how quickly you go. You're talking about the StudioWeb. The HTML5 is you can get through that pretty quickly. CSS3. Well, I know people have gone through the entire curriculum of StudioWeb within a month or so. So you can get to JavaScript probably within a couple of weeks if you push it, maybe sooner, depending. Should I learn Kotlin or Java? Well, I suppose you're thinking about mobile. Then you want to go native mobile Android. You definitely want to do Kotlin because Google has said that Kotlin is their preferred choice now. Federico says, hello from Morocco. Please, how much time do I need to finish? Okay. Yeah, I answered that for you. You're looking at maybe 2 weeks or so, Randall, understand, but what I think is that more and more guaranteed a good look from mobile users is more important because as more people using. Okay, so there's a bit of a discussion with regards to whether you should design mobile first or not. So I'm just going to jump into it. I'm going to give you a high-level discussion. I'll help you understand the philosophy. And of course, there's different points of views, in that regard. Are we at least 75? Okay, close enough. So let me go to the subject at hand, and then we'll do the Q&A and so on. All right, so let me just jump into it. So here was a question that was put to me. If I may ask you about mobile first concept, I saw people talking about it, but it just made me more confused. With WordPress, the themes come up with all versions built in. So all the WordPress themes are saying, yeah, we're mobile first, etc. However, if I start to create a simple website using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, how do I go about making mobile? How do I go about making it mobile first? Thanks so much again. Wish you plenty of courage during these weirdling days. Peace and love. All right, so let's just jump into it. So all mobile first is just a philosophy and a technique of development. The idea behind it is that you develop your web views for the mobile devices first, because you're going to have to be much more minimal and precise about what it is you're going to be displaying to the user. And so the thinking is that you're going to get the essential elements of the views of the pages of the website put into your mobile first design. And then from there, it's easier to build on top of that lightweight framework and build up from there. It's a philosophy. Do you have to use it? No. Some people prefer, some people don't. The other route is you develop for the big screen, the normal screen, and then you just reduce and you remove the unnecessary elements from your scaled up page, your normal browser page browser size page rather, and you do it that way. You get 10 different developers, you're going to get 12 different answers about which way is best. I think one thing you could do is you can decide whether you're going after a mobile market, what's more important. That might be, that targeting your audience, your actual audience, is actually an old strategy in web design development. Who's the audience, right? So back in the day, when Internet Explorer was so dominant, that was Microsoft's browser, that was the number one choice. So we would design for that, and then we work on other things. Now, within mobile first development, basically, just to be clear, you're designing your views, your pages, your web pages, or your web apps, so that the pages, the views, when I say views, is what they see on the page. You're designing them so that your page looks good, whether it be on a cell phone or on a big screen computer. That's pretty much it. Now, the main technique for that, number one, is something called responsive design using the media query, which is a CSS3 capability. And I teach all of this in my StudioWeb course. Basically, it allows you with simple CSS to check to see what the browser width is in pixels of the person visiting your site, and then you can add CSS to the page. You can change the way the page looks based on the screen size. Another technique that goes along with that is something called adaptive design, where you, in fact, will, instead of scaling and resizing and moving elements around in the page based on screen size, with adaptive, you actually remove actual code, like HTML elements, out of the page. And you could do that with JavaScript on the client, I suppose. I would prefer to do that on the browser. That was the old way that we used to do. It was not the oldest way, but it was one of the old ways that we used to make our layouts work on all kinds of different screen sizes through adaptive. We would use PHP on the back end, or Java, or JavaScript, or whatever, C#.NET ASP, and we would use the server-side rendering to basically build out the page based on the browser type that was visiting that page, if that makes any sense. Today, though, it's a combination of techniques that you would use. So there you go. I went off on a little bit off. So mobile first, it's just one of that nerd jargon again. It's a strategy and of design. You choose whichever one you prefer. and you just work from there. At the end of the day, when you're building out websites and web apps, you're going to be testing, retesting, and testing, and retesting, and testing, and retesting. So whether you start from mobile and then build up, or you go from normal size and you refine down, you're still going to be testing many times. So I don't think, I would argue it's personal taste. It's personal taste. I suppose there are, I suppose there are arguments for both types. So that's pretty much it. Just a quick overview. I just want to answer that question. Any questions for me while we're at it here? So where do we go here? The animals of your courses have some relation with the language. Why HTML and CSS is a frog? I like frogs. I'll tell you why, because my original site, my original site for teaching code was killersites.com. Now, I didn't start that site. That site was started by a guy who wrote the most important book in web design, I would argue, in the 1990s. I'll get it here. Hold on. So this is the book. In the 1990s, this book was super important. You see here, killersites.com. So I took over that site in, I guess, the year 2000 or maybe 98, 99, I forget now. And this book is not relevant today whatsoever. It's way too old. But in its day, this was such an important book in the web development and design community because at that time, nobody designed websites to look good. Most of the web was really pretty ugly. So he said, hey, why don't we use tried and true desktop publishing principles of layout and design to make pages look good. And if you look at that book, he was talking about one day we may use this technology called CSS. If we're really lucky, one day it will come out. This was written in 96, I think. Anyway, so why did I get into that? So yeah, I took over that site in in the late 90s, early 2000, maybe 2000, and I used a frog, a poison arrow frog, as my logo. It was a poisonous frog, killer sites, And I just got into frogs. They're colorful, they're nice. That's pretty much what that is all about. Here's an example of a media query. Boom. At media, max width. So you can go max width, min width. You're basically checking to see if the browser's maximum width, horizontal, is up to 300 pixels. Then you put your rules in there and your page will change and flow accordingly. Yeah, so that's pretty it. Is that book published at Rockport? You mean the Creating Killer Sites book? You're talking about this book here, Andre? It's a famous book. Apple used to reference this book on apple.com, Microsoft. It was that important a book in its day. So when the author, basically allowed me to pick it up, and I took over, and that was very cool for me. And I used that site as my first educational site. So I had one of the very first code training sites in the world, where I took that over, and like I said, 99 or 2000, I forget now. So maybe that's why you saw that book cover, because it is, if you're an old-time coder nerd, you know that that book was important for its date. Do not get it today. It's totally out of date. But it's kind of interesting to look at. I keep it for obvious reasons. I keep one copy for myself. Technology is amazing. Making pages look good is crazy easy with something like Bootstrap, meaning you can put all your focus into what you're actually doing. Yeah, well, that's why Twitter invented Bootstrap, because CSS layout prior to CSS Grid and Flexbox was a real pain, big time pain. So of course, some people probably don't like Bootstrap anymore, but Bootstrap is still fine today, React Native or Flutter? I think it would depend on the job. You would have to look at the type of work that you're doing. What's the project itself you're doing? what are requirements, and you see whether Flutter or React could satisfy those requirements. You would have to look at both, compare and contrast. Android or iOS? In what regard? For development, apparently there's more money in iOS. Turns people on iOS are more willing to pay, but the app development game was good to get into when iPhone first came out. Not now, man. It's like there's so many apps. It's really hard to get traction in that regard. So I wouldn't be up to doing that. Let's see what we got here. Do I need making YouTube video for representing skill to job boss, or rather focus on learning deep? No, not videos. Actually, focus on actually doing little freelance jobs for real clients. That's going to be worth 10 times more. All right, let's see what Neil has to say. The register headline today, Dart 2.8 is out with Flutter as Google claims to have solved a cross-platform dev puzzle. Oh, there you go. I got to do some more nerd news. I plan on revisiting nerd news again, where I just talk about recent developments. Once I do my move, I'm going to have a couple of segments. There we go. Didi says, what's the best simulator to check how my websites look on various mobile devices besides Google Developer Tools and the like? By the way, if anybody wants to chime in on any questions in the chat, go right ahead and provide an answer there. I don't know what the best simulator is. I like using Chrome. I just use Chrome, check things out. And I also check on Windows. But I'm sure there's other solutions out there. Don't be afraid to answer Didi's question if you have an alternative answer. Should I learn PHP or Node.js can do it? Node.js can do pretty much anything that you want. PHP can pretty much do anything that you want. So they're both very good technologies. Also, close to 50% of apps on the App Store are games, so don't think you'll crash in making the next Flappy Bird. The market is super saturated. It is super saturated, indeed. Again, the big money in that was years and years ago. And between app development and web development, you're going to make money with all of them, there's no question. But I think if you wanted to freelance, it'd be web development 100%. Is it okay to change jobs now to a startup? I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know what you mean by that. It may seem so. How many hours should you work on learning if we are free 24/7? Just sit down, start writing code, and just keep doing it until it's starting to be not productive, meaning your brain is not taking in information. Then take a break, go exercise, drink some water, relax. It depends on you. Some people can learn certain things at certain speeds, other people can't. Hey, I have that book. It's in my storage until now. Driver Steve. I guess he's talking about creating killer websites. Yeah, don't read it because the information in here is way too dated. I actually have the original site, I have killersites.com, but I have the original site archived for the sake of history. Yeah, it was important in its day. What else do we got here? How are we doing? All right. I have another subject I was going to cover in another video, but maybe we can get into now. Stefan, should I focus on getting domain knowledge? Assuming that you're a decent coder and you're comfortable writing code, then yeah, then you want to start getting into, if you want to be, start a business in a particular domain, yeah, you got to start researching the actual domain in question. Domain knowledge, if you don't know, is, I don't know, coffee shops. What are coffee shops? What are coffee shop owners? What are they concerned about? What are their common problems? What do they have to deal with? Another one could be a bike store, bike repair shops. What are the bike repair shops would like? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. All right. I wish most coding YouTube channels would just build full stack applications, show subscribers how they go about surfing the internet for a solution, why they code the way they do. Well, I try to cover that on this live cast. I have my foundations in StudioWeb, and then I talk about how to think like a more advanced developer, amongst other things. Let's see what we got here. Nowadays, to create a killer website, you have to integrate with Killer Robot API and provide GPS coordinates of who you want killed. There you go. DT says, thanks. There we go. See, I'm cool. What I like about this, we're building a bit of a community here where, people can chime in and give their opinions, provide some helpful answers. So I'm happy about that. It's a bit more of an interaction thing. Oh, here we go. I meant moving into a startup from a stable company at this point. Thoughts on it? Transition. I always tell people when you want to get into, unless you're going to go work for a startup. Well, first of all, startups, you got to understand, they start up and then they crash and burn. So make sure there is a good reason to join the startup. A, be sure that you believe in the product. B, you're probably going to get a wage cut, so you got to consider that as well. So make sure you got some money saved up just in case, and be sure and confident that you can get a normal job just in case that should fail. That's if you go work for a startup. On the other hand, you're going to start a startup, then you got to get your domain knowledge. You better have at least a year cash saved up to be safe, 6 months, a year, and make sure you have funding lined up, and then you can get into that. Or you can transition into your startup, which I recommend if you're doing your own. Slowly on the side, build it up while you're still working. It slows down the process, but it's a lot less stress. Yeah, Visual Studio. I'm not sure if that's something you can learn just by watching. Learn what? If anything to do with code, you got to write code. Django or Ruby on Rails? You mean Django? I think long term, Django probably has more of a lifespan because, Ruby on Rails has kind of fallen out of favor. And why do I say that? Is because Python is so popular now. So I can see all these Python developers who are working on AI or system automation. That if they had to do web, they'd want to go with Django, which is Python, of course. Yeah, that's a good point. Here we go. They will likely pay you less at a startup, but they will offer you stock options. I work at a stable 4-year-old startup. So there you go. Exactly. It's a long-term play. It's kind of like you work at a startup, you take a pay cut, but there is a chance of a payout in the end, But it's not a high risk because you're not risking your money, but understand that most startups fail. So keep that in mind, That would be something I would do if I was younger, while you have options. Hey, Stef, I'm graduating in a week and have a job lined up in Texas. Congratulations. I feel very blessed during these times. What are some ways to accelerate quickly in my career now, aside from trying hard code-wise? Build your big nest, build your interpersonal communication skills, writing, spoken, and go out of your way to help people out. If you help people out, they're going to help you. And if you learn to communicate really well, then you're going to just rise very quickly in the organization. All right. Eddie's leaving us. All right, see you, Eddie. Here we go. Jesse says, on building a freelance side hustle with only a handful of free jobs done, what kinds of hourly rates do you think are fair? Depends where you live, right? If you're living in New York City, that's one thing. If you're living in, Ohio, in some small town, maybe another thing. Or, somewhere in Southeast Asia would be another thing. That said, you're going to have to look at the local competition because you're affected by that, number one. Number two, as you get better and you're able to be more productive, then your hourly rate will be worth more. So, for example, you are a beginner, we'll say, and you've only done a few projects and you're going to work at a certain speed, right? There's a certain level of capability and productivity that you have as a junior developer, for the sake of argument. Give it 6 months, give it a year later, 2 years later, where you're able to produce the same amount of work, get out a site, get out an app in half the time, then you're worth twice as much, right? Now, I don't know what that baseline is, depends where you live, et cetera, but you get the idea. In the freelance course, I teach you about how to set your price and how to judge that and how to price out jobs and so forth. That's a big part about being successful in what it is that you do. It feels like learning the fundamentals is a never-ending rabbit hole. Not really. No, no. Once you learn your fundamentals and really internalize them and you understand what's really important in development, then the learning curve lessens, meaning it's not so hard to learn. And you have to learn less and less and less and less and less because what you're going to see, whether you're using Vue or React or Angular, they're all based, they do things differently, of course, but they're all based on the same principles. And a lot of React, a lot of the ideas in React, they just took concepts that have been used on the back end, on the server-side programming for years and years and years and years, and they just ported it to the front end in some respects. And so you see a lot of the same principles rehashed. It's very rare now that I see anything that's really new. I just see new ways of a reinvention of old ideas. That's what I see a lot. Okay, what do we got? Cool. Okay, here we go. Gabriel says, I'm start learning code 3 months ago, and my technology course teach me on C language. Do you think this is good to go deep to learn the basis and use another language? Sorry, my English. No, no worries. I don't know. Do you want to get a job? Do you want to complete the program? You want to go freelance? Look at what I would do is I would look out there. I'm assuming always job oriented. Myself, I'm always job, freelance, business oriented. And when I think about code, thinking about how you monetize the code, how you make money with the code. Not so much about purity of code learning and execution. For me, the end result is building things so you can make money in one of those ways. So having said that, with regards to C, look at the jobs that C programmers do. Look at what they do, and just look on Indeed.com or other job sites. See what they do. See where they work, what type of jobs, what kind of employers. See if that's something that's interesting to you. And then maybe explore other languages. I would go, if you're doing C now and you want to explore other language, I would go to a high-level language. C is low-level, meaning closer to the CPU. High-level language, usually those languages are like Python, JavaScript, PHP, Java, C#. Those languages, you write less code, you get more things happening, more front end, if you will. I'm not in a technical term, but anyway, I would try one of those languages like a Python or JavaScript and see how that is. It's going to be very weird for you going from C, but just check it out, see which you prefer, Big Ness says, I appreciate your video, Stefan. I've learned a lot. I'm glad I can help. All right. We're not getting too many spams, so I don't know if our forum moderator is doing his job, but if you are, fantastic. Or maybe we're not getting inundated today with the spammers. Whatever it is, we got a much cleaner flow of comments, which is good. All right, here we go. Into March. When do you know you're good enough to start doing freelance app dev? Well, what I say, once you do your fundamentals, then you go out there and you do a couple of free ones and just see how it goes. Since you're doing it for free, they can't demand too much from you. You won't feel so much pressure because you're welcome, Gabriel. You won't feel so much pressure because you're not getting paid. And that's how you learn. That's why I tell people, I got to make a video where it's like part of the video FAQ. My roadmap, if you will, to learning to become a professional developer. Fundamentals, put up your own private website, then do some freelance projects for free, 2 to 3 to learn the ropes. And from there, you're going to learn so much. You're going to learn how to work with clients. You're going to learn how to be a coder. You're going to see what level you are. One thing you could do is maybe do some certifications to test your basic skills. Although I still think actually working in the real world is the true test, if that makes any sense. All right, so today, okay, let's see. Theon says, today I found your channel. It's excellent. Now you're live. Wow. All right. Well, thanks for watching. It's always cool. Do your two courses teach SQL? Yes, they do. We teach the basics of database and SQL to get you going, no problem. My courses will get you to a position where you can get a job or you can start freelancing. Does it teach everything ever? No. No course can do that. But it teaches you the essential things. One of the jobs as a good teacher is to not only simplify these things that seem complex, but the other thing that a good teacher does, they use their years of experience as a developer to show you what you need to know in each of the technologies, in each of the languages, so you can move forward as quickly as possible. Because if you look at any programming language, whether it be Java, C Sharp, Java, etc., um, JavaScript, excuse me, whichever language you look at, they're vast, they're big. There's all kinds of things, there's all kinds of aspects of these language libraries, if you will, that you'll never use. You'll just never use. So what you got to do is you got to have a course that teaches you the key things that you need to know to move forward. So yeah, there you go. I hope that answers that question. How can I start? How can I start a good starter in programmation? I think you want to learn how to write software. Again, I'm biased to check out my StudioWeb. Should I learn how to build websites from scratch, HTML, JavaScript, or WordPress? Depends what your goal. I would learn the basics from scratch, even if you go to WordPress, because at some point, if you're gonna develop, like, say, a freelance business off of WordPress, you're gonna need to know a little bit of HTML, a little bit of CSS, a little JavaScript to make changes to the WordPress themes, right? For sure, I would actually throw in PHP as well. There we go. I'm learning PHP OOP. OOP is short for Object-Oriented Programming. I'm having difficulty switching to OOP from procedural. How do I learn smarter? Go to my site, killerphp.com, and you'll see one of the tabs, Object-Oriented PHP Tutorial. I wrote that thing about 10,000 years ago for a web design magazine. It's like 22 steps. It's free. And it teaches you the foundations of object-oriented programming. It's going to help you understand not only why you write object-oriented code, but how to do it, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people have told me that it changed the game for them. I've had lots of people who were trying to learn object-oriented programming in Java or C Sharp, and they did my PHP OOP to understand the concepts. Go check that out, killerphp.com, killerphp.com. It's free, check it out. And yeah, it's good. So people tell me. Hey, I am a CS student starting. I am reading first Java head book. Okay, because they are starting with C++. You gotta be watch your writing there, guys. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. How long will it take the SE job market to recover from COVID? SE, software engineering jobs. I don't know if they've been hit. All my friends who still work for large companies, they're still working. They haven't been hit whatsoever. They just work from home. So I'm not sure. Perhaps in other places. Yeah. So many tutorials make OOP complex. It's not so hard once you have realized just a couple of things. Exactly, Neil. Exactly. Again, I recommend, without coming off as snooty, check out my OOP tutorial on Killer PHP. A lot of people tell me it makes it easy for them. Let's see what Garko has to say. I want to one day freelance or become an entrepreneur, but will likely try to get a position at a larger company after college in web development, the direction I should be focused on. There's lots of jobs in web development, but I tell you something, if you start working for a larger company and you start making the larger company the big bucks, it's going to be hard for you to go freelance. Unless you really hate the corporate environment, it's going to be hard for you to start a business. So if you're young, I would say start your business sooner. Better to mess up now when you're young and you have no responsibility, no kids, no wife, no family, no husband, depending whether, than the other way around. Remember, when you start making the money, it's going to be hard to let that go, let me tell you. So keep that in mind. Not that there's anything wrong with regards to working for people. On the other hand, if you go work for a company, you're going to learn. If you want to learn with the eventual aim of becoming a freelancer, start your own business, I would go work for a small, medium-sized business and not a large. Why? Because a large company, they're going to silo you. They're going to put you in one area. You're just going to do one type of coding for a long, long time. Whereas you go work for a small business, they're probably going to have you jump around a lot more. So you're going to learn much more about the whole game, which you're going to need if you want to open up a business. All right, guy. Understanding OOP kind of makes procedural seem super complicated. You'll find you'll pass a lot less things and parameters as you can have fields instead. Yeah, you can say that. Yeah. What are your thoughts about diploma versus degree as software developer, non-web development? It depends on your target jobs. If you want to work for large organizations, you're going to need a degree. If you just want to get a job, get out there, a diploma is fine. But you don't really need a diploma in that situation. You just, portfolio site with a little bit of experience. I'm telling you guys, it's worth much more than any credentials. It's your best credentials. I've hired people for many years now, decades, and I diploma is like, oh, what's your diploma? Okay, whatever. What's your experience? That's what I do. I go, oh, you got a master's in computer science. Okay, that's good. But what do you know? What have you done? Right? And that's what's going to happen for a lot of businesses, except for the large ones where you got the HR departments where they're going to want you to have little degrees. So again, I hope that makes sense. Do you advise working solo or as part of a team? Working solo has its options. William, yes, definitely. There'll be a link in the description for that, for sure. It's a long-standing thing. I decided to keep it. Yeah, working solo has its advantages depending on your personality type, although some people get lonely. Working with a team, you learn a lot because you have the support of other developers around you. So it depends on what you want to do. All right, here we go. What's your advice for someone like me living in a third world country with a terrible IT industry like USA in the 80s? Please, man, help me. Well, if you got experience, I would start applying for jobs in the West, and you seem to have a good written skills, which is very important. So that's a good plus. So build up that resume, start applying to various companies. That is that's my advice to you there. I'm not sure if he desires to respond or understands your question. I'm pretty sure he's seen it. Please do not continue to repeat it. Yeah, I'm not sure what question that is. I'm not sure what question that is. I'll see if I can find it. Okay, yeah, okay, I did. I just answered this question, so I hope that helps. Let's see what we got here. Scooters says, you'll probably make more money working for a larger company. You can use that money to buy more tutorials from Stefan. No, my goal with me is you do my web stack Python. You don't need my tutorials anymore. You can teach yourself code all you want. That's the whole point of that. You'll make more money at first, probably the first 6 months or a year, working for a larger company. But if you do freelance, or especially you do your own, in the end, you'll probably make much more money once you have success on your own. That's for sure. Hey, Stef, do you see any value in web developers having their own YouTube channel? How to build online presence, if anything? Not really. I think if you want to become a web developer, go develop websites and develop web apps. If you want to be a YouTuber, do YouTube. But very few YouTubers make half the money of a web developer. You can't look at the PewDiePies as the example. They're super rare exceptions. Okay, good. So I answered that. Good. Thanks for taking care of that. All right. How do you prefer to learn? Through tutorials, documentation, or watching video tutorials? It depends at what level you're at. personally, it's documentation now that I know what I'm doing, right? Once you know what you're doing, the documentation cuts to the chase. You go boom, 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 boom. Okay, this is what they're doing. Let's go. Once in a while, you may watch one or two videos here or there. That's after you get your foundations. In the beginning, though, of course, the documentation is going to be super hard. So as a beginner, that's why I have my interactive is both code challenges and video and instant help, and it's kind of like a virtual tutors. That's the better situation. It also depends on what you're getting into in terms of how in depth the subject is. So there you go. When you're starting out, video courses. When you're experienced, you know what you're doing, then you're probably going to be doing a lot more documentation reading. Okay, here we go. What is the most economical YouTube recording setup, including mic software, for someone starting out? Okay, Troy. You don't need to, you could just use your cell phone. If you got good stuff, you can use your cell phone. Like I mentioned PewDiePie, that guy. I remember when I was just first starting out with YouTube, I was just checking out what the landscape was like. This guy still uses like an old 720p camera from the 1950s. You know what I mean? And he's like the biggest out there. Quality of content's more important. That being said, you can get, inexpensive USB mics. I think there's one called Blue Snowball or something like that that's very popular. You don't have to spend a lot of money on that kind of stuff. The sound quality of the mic has much more with the room, much more to do with the room than anything else. And the video quality has much more to do with lighting than anything else. You don't have to go crazy like I did here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Learn by doing. All right, guys, 40 minutes in. I've answered a bunch of questions. Thanks for showing up. And that's it. So give me a thumbs up if you like this whole thing. What do we got here? Like I say, I've just started the one and only StudioWeb Complete Developer course, and I can say that everything is made for everybody. The possibilities for progress are guaranteed. I appreciate that, Andre. Thanks for picking up the course, and thanks for letting people know. All right, and thanks to the moderator. I think we had a much cleaner feed this time around, so that's fantastic. All right, guys, so I'm going to let you go because I got a bunch of other stuff to do. Let me recommend, if you've gone through the basics and you're a coder and you're doing work, and you want to level up your coding skills, I would get this book, Refactoring. It's Java, but it's going to really make you a much better developer. This is the book I would highly recommend. And if you're a total beginner to web design and coding, besides my StudioWeb, if you like to read, here's my book here I wrote. It teaches the basics. I don't hardly I make like 5 or 10 cents every time somebody buys a book, so I'm not making money on this thing. I'm just mentioning it. All right. I hope that helps, guys. So 1:35, 43 minutes. We'll talk soon. I'll let you go. We'll end with the theme music, eh?